All right, well, we're officially recording. Welcome to Design 113. This is our typography class. And I just wanted to briefly start out by introducing myself. I'm Mrs. Woodland, and I see that we've got Norma in the class. Norma, thank you for coming. And thank you to all those who are watching me via the recording since you're not here. I'm so excited to be teaching this class, and we're going to be talking a little bit about intro to typography. Have you had this class before, Norma, or had an introduction to typography before? Okay, so okay, no is great. Okay, perfect. So then you're in the right class. This is a beginner's course. So I apologize to those of you who might have are familiar with this a little bit. We aren't going to be designing typography per se, but we are going to be learning about how typography is the art and the technique in arranging type. And so it's going to be really fun. We've got some fun exercises, and to just briefly go over, they always want us to talk about professionalism, and that's why we're sharing videos at the beginning of this class, because we want everybody to understand that there's professionalism in the classroom, professionalism in our work ethic, and then also as we go into the industry, how we have to represent ourselves. And you'll find that your designs are going to start to say a lot about you. And so I want you to think long and hard about the designs that you come up with. It's going to take some mulling over, a lot of rough drafts, but once you get it, you're going to be so proud of your final product. Hey, Sandy, thanks for coming. I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone's mics just so that we don't have that reverb in the back. I'm going to go ahead and close out. We're going to start and launch into our lecture for today. And we will begin. So Sandy, welcome to class. Thanks for coming. All right, so we're going to be talking a little bit about starting, what we're going to be doing in this class, starting with type. What is typography? It's just basically, like I said, the art and technique of arranging type. Now, most graphic designers will spend a good portion of their career just developing their own typeset, their own typography, and a lot of designers will specialize in this. And so it's kind of neat to see what can be done. And it doesn't look like we're going to have time for that video, so I'm just going to go ahead and move forward. But I did want to talk a little bit about what typography is. So what is typography to you? What have you seen? What do you know of typography? It looks like Norma's taught this a class like it, desktop publishing. What is typography to you? Hey, Brianne, thanks for coming. It's great to have you. So just type off real quick what you think typography is to you. Where have you seen it? What pops out to you? Why are we studying this? Okay, so Norma says the use of words performed in fonts. I love that. Great definition. Anything else? Most people will never think about typography. In fact, they don't really understand the psychological effect that it has in relation to conveying a message. And designers, graphic designers especially, use this quite often. Marketers use typography quite often. Like Norma said, the use of words performed in fonts. The use of words is huge, and the way that you design them can have such an impact. Brianne says, to me, it's the feelings and personalities of the products using the fonts. I love that. It's the message, right? The emotion that can come from it, or the visual stimulation you get from looking at it. It just conjures up some kind of movement, some feeling, and it does have a personality of its own. We're going to be talking a little bit about that. If we're designing in our assignment, if you look ahead, we're going to be designing different types of logos, a bank logo, a toy company logo. We're going to be designing, what's the other one? A restaurant, Italian bistro restaurant logo. And these are all different companies that are going to have different feelings and personalities. So they're not all going to look the same. And what a font you would use that's playful and lighthearted for a child's toy company is not going to be the same that you would use for say a bank. We wouldn't take the bank very seriously if we're using really silly fonts, or fonts that didn't. We want a typography that will convey security and professionalism. And so these fonts speak to us, and they mean different things. What you would use for a lawyer's, for a law firm, is going to be different than what you use for a toy company. So I want you to just start thinking about, if you just different genres, feelings, personalities, just like Brianne said. It is a great way to convey a message without really using pictures. And so that's why typography is so impactful. Great. So it's what language looks like. I've got a little quote up here. Okay, so no other design discipline requires so much learning and training. They often call it fontography. Now, if you've ever seen the movie The Holiday, anyone ever seen that movie? It's got Cameron Diaz. Okay, so okay, then you know that Cameron Diaz's character, Amanda Woods, is a movie trailer maker. And in one scene, she asks her coworkers to make the type for the movie header she's working on. Twice as big, but try it in a red, like a happy red, not a sorceress red. And that's a quote from the movie. That's all part of the art that is typography. And so typography is 95% of design. It's a driving force in all forms of communication art. Can you imagine reading a magazine, maybe checking out a website? Think of some of the websites you go to, playing with an app or watching TV without any typography or text. I can't imagine a world without that. So it is so important. And we're going to learn why today. It's all about visual communication. That's why we've dedicated an entire class to it. And in some cases, are any of you going into graphic design for a career? Are you pursuing this as a degree? Yes? Okay, good. So that's good. I've had some students that are doing it, well, just interested in it, or very artsy, but just wants to pursue a digital side of that art. So that's good. We're going to learn how typography can help or hinder our designs. And it all starts with font choices. So I want to talk about a few fonts that are big no-nos in the graphic design industry right now. One is Lucida. I'm trying to find an example of it. Lucida and Apple Chancery. You guys have Word. You can pull that up and type it out. Apple Chancery and Lucida are kind of, they're really out of date. They've been used so often, and now there's almost like a negative context used with those certain fonts. And for some reason, when we have the restaurant logo design, a lot of students gravitate to those fonts because they're, I guess, cursive or fancy. When people think restaurant, they think, oh, I gotta have some kind of a scriptive font. But with those two fonts, I say steer clear, stay away from those ones, because it will really date your design and it will make you look like an amateur. So we want to make sure that we steer clear of those ones. So font choice is big. Word, letter selection. I want to go back to font choice too. When you choose a font for any logo design, feel free to play around with it, to stylize it and put your own spin on it, because then that's when it becomes unique to you and to your design. Yeah, Norma says Arial times Roman. Though they may be used too much, they are considered classic fonts, which are kind of the go-tos. There is a video about a font called Helvetica. If you guys are familiar with Helvetica, there's a whole movie that was made from it, and I got a video link. I think it's in this week's or next week's. Either way, we're going to see the video link. And the Helvetica movie, it's got a little excerpt about why, actually a whole movie was made about the font, why it's been used, and it'll show companies that have used it, companies that continue to use it, and new upcoming companies that style it in such a way. And it's just so common and so out there and so saturated, but it is considered a classic font because it's so versatile. So yeah, not to be confused with versatile classic fonts that are used. I agree with you. They are out there being used, but because they are versatile, people are able to tailor them to their own. Now, there's some fonts that there's not much you can do with them, kind of like Apple Chancery. Those fonts are just kind of outdated, so to speak. Yeah, Brianne, so you've seen the Helvetica. I know I can't remember if it's in this lecture or next week's, but you will not leave my class without watching a portion of that movie. So it's a very interesting movie if you get into graphic design at all. Word letter selection. So We're going to be talking about, I think Brianne brought up conveying feelings. The choice of typeface can affect how a piece is understood. That is huge. Consider these two examples. I'm going to throw up here on my PowerPoints. Like, can you see my PowerPoints at all? And I apologize if, let's see. I'm going to pull these up. I thought they were up, so bear with me. All right, so I've got two examples here, and I want you to look at them for just a minute. Okay, good. You can see my slides. All right, just wanted to make sure. So, which is more appropriate considering the title of the article? Impact on private equity. One word is spelled incorrectly, but yeah, there's a misspelling in here. But which is more appropriate? Which font type on private equity? The first. What, Sandy, why do you say the first? I'm not picking on you specifically, but anyone who wants to chime in, why would Sandy think that the first example is the one that we would select for the easier to read? Okay, I like that. Anything else? Why would the first example be? Yeah, because privacy is serious. So not only do we want a legible font, we want it to be easy to read, but we're talking about people's money, their equity, their this is a big deal. So this is serious business. So we want something that's not like whimsical and playful. That has its own part, but we want something very serious, very secure. These are words that we want to feel when we look at it. Caution, attention, that's right. We want to be able to take it seriously. If you're going to invest your money into a company, you know, if the company is going to be in charge of your assets, then you probably want to pick the more professional looking one because, well, based off of look alone, I don't know if I could trust something that was kind of ridiculous looking. Besides, this is another example of a font that's been, we don't use that font. But yeah, the one on the left is the right answer. Good job. Great descriptive words. So you're kind of getting the picture here. So most people would automatically choose the example on the left. The font size, the type elicits a feeling of power, seriousness, and importance. While the example on the right is fun, light, and playful, we see that when it's a serious topic, we want to go with a more professional look. So keep that in mind. So when you're designing your bank logo, we might want to tailor our fonts to be a little bit more professional looking, not so lighthearted. We want it to be like a serious, powerful. It needs to convey importance and command attention. And so we want to be careful with the fonts that we use. Now, Jumping Spider, the Jumping Spider logo that we're going to be designing, you can be as playful as you want if it's targeted to children, sure. It's a toy company, so you want to be fun. You don't want to be boring. So just kind of remember there's just a place for everything, a time and season for everything. So just be careful with your choices. Think it through. And it's pretty much common sense in that area, but just wanted to point that out. So let's keep talking. Good typography, it's utilitarian, and that it should allow the reader to focus on the content and not the formatting. So good typography often goes unnoticed because it just makes sense. And so when people look at it, they're like, oh yeah, I love that. That looks great. But consider these two examples. I'm going to give you another two over here. Which article is more legible and user-friendly? I think Sandy brought up easier to read. Now we're talking about easier to read. Which one is more user-friendly, easier on the eyes? Which one would you rather keep reading? Yeah, the example on the left is clear, simple, and easy to read. The right example has way too many colors, way too many font styles. It's all on a background that's very disconcerting to the eye. Now, as we move forward in this class, what's really cool is we're going to be building upon the assignments. So assignment 1 will be our logo design. Assignment 2, I believe, is going to be designing a flyer that we use our logo on. And we're going to be designing, we're going to have to format text. Please be aware, remember these examples. Sometimes less is more, especially in design. The simpler you can get, the better off you are. And I think the more impactful something is. Now, don't add backgrounds or background colors. Try to get creative on how you can create interest, visual interest, without having to rely on so heavily on using 15 different colors and backgrounds. Sometimes it can get muddled. So as we can see here, this is not easy to read. It just kind of a little confusing. Now, this design on the right breaks a few design rules. First and foremost, when you're designing, we'll get more into this next week, but when you're designing any layout, you want to avoid using more than 2, 3 max fonts. So you kind of want to stick around the 2 font rule. Kind of like the one on the left here. They've used 3. I do recommend only using 2, but 3 is the max, okay? And you have to do it consistently. This one here is using 4 different fonts. And then you want to stick to 2 or 3 max in colors. So you want to pick a color scheme and just use it throughout. But random colors and too many colors, this one's using 4 or 5 here. It's just too much. So we don't want to overwhelm the reader and overpower the message. We want to be able, we don't want to distract from what it's supposed to say. So just keep that in mind. You had someone give you a resume today. Yeah, so it does. So Brianne said she had someone turn in a resume and it looked a lot like the right side example and she threw it away. So it sounds like you're in the hiring department of where you work. So yeah, I mean, it just, you definitely want to watch out for these do's and don'ts of design. And some you might say, oh, that's common sense. I'd never designed something like that. But then when you are faced with options and colors and as many fonts as you want to choose from, it can start to get a little muddled. So we want to make sure that we stick to the rules. So 2 or 3 fonts max, 2 or 3 colors maximum with your color scheme. Try to keep it simple. It winds up looking a lot better than you would think. All right, so let's keep going. So combining text, imagery, keeping things as clear and direct as possible. I asked, how can your typography choices help or hinder? I just showed you an example. There's one other word that I want to add here, and that's consistency. In any typographical work, the consistent use of typefaces, kerning, leading, bullets, and formatting is critical. Consistency makes the work look professional, and it keeps your readers focused on the content and not what's going on behind the scenes, okay? Not the formatting. All right, here's the anatomy and the terminology. I'm sorry, the anatomy of of typography, of the letters that you will see, all different kinds. Some we might be familiar with, like serif or sans serif. We've heard that before, maybe in our English classes. But here's just kind of a diagram. So if you ever hear me refer to, oh, the ascender line or the X height or the baseline, you'll know what I'm talking about. You could kind of refer to this. All right, so we're gonna try to check out something real quick. We're gonna talk a little bit about anatomy, size, X heights. This is all gonna be important. I'll go back to this diagram here so you can see what we're talking about. The anatomy of the typography. So the anatomy is basically how letters sit on a line. And this is all the terminology that you kind of want to be familiar with. There's size, it's the height, the width of, usually typography is measured in points. So Word 12 point, if you're in Word, you'll usually do a paper in 12-point font. InDesign and Illustrator are the same. They're structured the same as far as point size is concerned. Yeah. And then let's see if there's anything else you'll need to know. The size, variations on a typeface, we learned that. There's a whole lot of type classification. A basic system for classifying typefaces was actually devised in the 19th century when printers sought to identify a heritage for their own craft, kind of keeping it separate from art history. So as you learn more, there's a whole history about typography. Unfortunately, we're not able to go through all of it, but I just want to talk about understanding the letter form and how to use it. So there's a visual personality, just like someone said in class, inherent to each typeface category, okay? Here's a video I want to share real quick. Let me get it pulled up. And just let me know if the sound Hang on, let me pull up the video for you. Share the screen. Can you guys hear it?
Here we're going to talk about type classifications. Now, as you know, the study of typography and the art of typography is centuries old, based upon handwritten work that scribes would create to make books. And it wasn't until the 1400s that Johannes Gutenberg, among others, started to develop the technology of letter forms on reusable pieces of metal and wood that became the study and the art of typography as we know it today. So in an effort to take all of the millions of typefaces and fonts that have been designed over the centuries, there are type classifications that are really helpful to know and understand for type choosing and basically getting to know different fonts and how they can be applicable and have a certain look for different projects. On the left of the screen, you'll see a list of some of the traditional classifications along with some of the more modern ones that have developed fairly recently. And we have visual examples of some of the more traditional ones here. You'll see in red a short description of what makes the different classification unique, and then the font that the examples are set in is listed here next to the letters. This one here is called Humanist or Old Style, and Garamond as well as Sabon that we see here are two examples of this classification. Now this is a very traditional, actually, one of the older classifications. This is really taken from the handwritten letter forms that the scribes would use, and also from Roman stone carving. You can see that the serifs are fairly sharp. It's a clean look. It's fairly, I don't want to say blocky, but it's not quite as smooth as some of the others. Yet it is a very readable and attractive classification here that has a somewhat of a historical feeling to us. I think partly because of the way these thicks and thins work together. You get kind of a sense of stone carving from these letter forms here. Over here, this is the transitional classification, and this is a lot younger, mid-18th century. Okay, so the 1700s. John Baskerville designed this font, and we're familiar with it today. You can see that it's slightly different from the old style. The serifs are flatter on the bottom. There's more of a rounded sense of the serifs on the lowercase a. It's a little bit more flowing, a little bit wider on the a here, a little bit more readable. They're both very readable, but this one has a little bit more of a flow to it. So this is considered transitional. This is considered modern here. The Bodoni and the Dido typefaces that you see in some of the Art Deco typefaces you might be familiar with are an example of the modern classification. Now, it's not that modern to us. It was early 19th century, but that's fairly young in the history of typography. You see extreme thicks and thins, really thin, delicate serifs, very dramatic. And this must have been quite a breakthrough when these fonts were first designed. This one here, Clarendon, is an example of Egyptian or slab serif, and you can definitely see the thick, blocky serifs that are being used here. It's a very bold and dramatic typeface. Look at the circle there on the top of the serif of the lowercase a. This is a great font for headline use. It's not so good for body copy because it's so thick and blocky. But slab serif fonts are used in, they're great for industrial ads. The Victorians used them a lot in their broadsides and in their advertising, and it can be very successful when used in the correct way. These three classifications here at the bottom are three different versions of what we call sans serif. Now, you're familiar, or you're becoming familiar with serif and sans serif typefaces. Sans means without, so any font that does not have the little feet at the bottom is known as a sans serif typeface. And we have Gil Sans down here, which is based on the Humanist old style fonts, but it doesn't.
Okay, so we're going to stop there. I just wanted to go over the sans serif versus serif fonts. And we're going to talk a little bit about it, and then we're going to move on because it seems pretty self-explanatory. Story or a brief synopsis of the history behind these fonts, something that you might not have thought about before or have known. So we're going to move back to the slides. And are there any questions about the video that you saw? Anything up to this point? Things are pretty clear. Okay, great. So let's talk about this serif versus sans serif just real quick so that you're aware. You obviously know the little marks on the little serifs on the font. That is your serif. That usually is, I was told in an English class once that you use the serif font for large bodies of text because it guides the eye. The sans serifs are great for headlines and anything that's going to be read at a large size. So it's funny with the serif versus sans serif, it's kind of like the final battle. First it was the Capulets versus the Montagues, and then it was Coke versus Pepsi. And then at the latest epic battle, I think we have today in the graphic design world is the serif versus sans serif, of course. And so luckily for us though, we've kind of been able to narrow it down with certain information as to where it's appropriate to use what, but just kind of use your best judgment when it comes to your logo designs and what would appeal to you as a consumer. Okay, serif fonts are easier to read in printed works, whereas sans serif fonts are better on the web. And there's lots of infographics out there and lots of information about classifications, but we'll get into that more. So we were talking about bad fonts, okay? Well, papyrus is one because there's a difference between overuse, misuse, and abuse. And overuse is just something that it seems to be a go-to font usually. Misuse is where you have the font but you use it in the wrong context. And then abusive fonts is where you use it so much that it no longer has an effect on you. So I wanted to show that to you guys. Type family, we should be fairly familiar with type family if you've worked with Word at all. Type families have family names like Times New Roman, Baskerville, Helvetica, Arial. These are families. And just like a family, you have all different kinds of varieties. So in a family, you can have an italic version, you could have a bold, a regular, sometimes a light, sometimes a book. There's all different kinds of weights within the family. Some families are large, others are small, and you'll find that your options may be a few or more or in between depending on which family you're using. Each family has lots of family members, and like we talked about, the different weights or types of the type family will give you a different effect. So Roman, italic, light, condensed, semi-bold, these are all the family members within the font family. Typeface, the letters, numbers, symbols that make up a design of type. Have any of you played with glyphs before in Illustrator or InDesign? Anybody? Have you heard of glyphs? Okay, so Brianne's heard of them. Norma? Okay, don't feel bad if you haven't. I didn't figure it out till late in the game when I was designing. Someone showed me that there's a whole other type base. I guess you could say like the whole other characters were opened up to me. Different numbers, letters, foreign symbols, things that made up the design of type. And so these individual little typefaces are named after the family. And they're also specified with a designation, whether it's bold or italic or condensed. So I'll be showing you these. Yeah, the black sheep of the family. Exactly. And so I'll be showing you the glyphs. Depending, again, on what font family you're in, the glyphs will be different. Some will have pages and pages, and some will only have maybe 100 different characters. But it's pretty cool to see what other characters are available to you. This is actually going to be one of our assignments, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't believe it's in week 1, but I could be wrong. We're going to go check that in just a minute. But this is an example of Futura and Baskerville. Later on down the road, we're going to be designing a font portrait just like this. And this is a super fun project. It's probably one of my favorite projects in the class. and you get to pick a font. You'll be writing a paper about that font, and then you've got to design a portrait based off of it. And there are so many clever ones. I've seen so many clever students out there. What they come up with is just crazy, but it's pretty neat. And so I can't wait till we do this assignment, but this is just showing you sans serif versus serif. All right, we talked about weight, width, style of typeface. Today, the terms font, typeface, and family, they're used kind of interchangeably. You'll hear me go back and forth. But just so we know, font is the actual font family, typeface, and is kind of all the characters underneath that font family. As long as we know what is what, it's okay if we use them interchangeably. Type style, again, we're going to be talking about regular, italic, light or thin, bold. There's all different kinds of weights that you can choose. You'll often hear me in the feedback when I give critiques. Just make sure I would change your weight, your font weight to this, or maybe your type family needs to be changed to something with a serif or sans serif. So as I give critiques, these are just basic terminology that we'll need to know going forward. Type sizing, letter spacing, and tracking. This is actually this is a great video that I want to show. It's a very short video, but this goes along with your assessment for week 1. Yeah, exactly, Eminem. All right, so here's another video that I want to share. You might want to pay attention to this one because it, hang on.
Hi, in this video we're going to talk about type families, type sizing, and an introduction to type spacing. Type families is the term for a typeface or font.
I'm going to skip ahead real quick.
Type sizing.
There we go.
Okay. Type is sized in a unit called points. Okay. The size of the letters and the spacing between lines in a paragraph are measured in this unit of points. 72 points equals 1 inch. So it's quite a small unit here. The name, by the way, for the spacing between lines, it's called line spacing, but it's also more commonly known as the term leading. Okay, and you will see this term a lot. It's a very common type term, and you're going to be working a lot with it when you are setting your type. Here I've set some of the typefaces you're using in the course in the different faces and also in different sizes. And you can see how quickly they can get large. Now, since 72 points equals 1.
Hang on, guys, sorry. Thank you. If at all you can't see it, just let me know. Sometimes it doesn't register. Can you see the screen now? We're going to move back. Okay.
In the different faces and also in different sizes. And you can see how quickly they can get large. Now, since 72 points equals 1 inch, this Helvetica, if it were printed out, since it's 72 points, it would be just about 1 inch tall. Not exactly, but pretty close. And the Frutiger, being half the size, point-wise, would be about a ½ inch tall. Generally speaking, for good body copy readability, 12 points is the default size. Anything from 10 to about 13 points is good for body copy. Once you start getting into these sizes, anything above 14 points is really better for headlines. Okay? Lastly, we have some information here on type spacing. Now, here is the same paragraph set in 4 different specifications, as we say. They're all set in Minion Pro, in the font Minion Pro, but they're set with different specifications. This one is set in 12 on 15, and that means the type is 12 points high, and there's 15 points of leading in this paragraph. This is pretty readable, because usually there is a few more points of leading set than the type size. Here we have one that is something called set solid, where the leading measurement is the same as the type size. This can sometimes be readable, although it's not quite as nice and easy to read as the first one. This is smaller. It's still readable, 11 on 12. It's okay because there's more leading than the type size. And this one has what we call very deep leading. It is 10 points tall, and it is set on 16 points of leading. And this is nice because the type is so small, we give it the breathing room of the deep leading so that we can read it more easily. Advertising copy generally uses that trick to make things nice and readable. To finish up, I'm going to give you two quick definitions here, which you will see time and again. They're called kerning and tracking. Kerning is the spacing between two characters, and here in this word away, we see that there's a fair amount of space between the A and the W, a little bit too much here. So to change that, we're going to adjust the kerning. We put the I-beam here in our text tool right between the two letters, and in our character panel, this window here is the one that we adjust. And the default, by the way, is 0. You see how widely spaced that is? That's really not that attractive. So we want to change it and make it smaller. And -50 seems to be a good kerning setting for that word to make it look more even, okay? Certainly you can type any number you want in the box. You don't have to stick to the drop-down numbers. You can type anything you want in there, okay? The last thing is called tracking. Tracking is the spacing between multiple letters, and you can track whole paragraphs if you want to do some copy fitting, make something shrink or stretch to fit. So you select the whole word and you use this drop down on this side, and it's the same principle. You can tighten up your tracking with negative numbers, you can increase it with the positive numbers. And again, you can type in whatever setting you want. So basically, that is an overview, very quick one, of families, spacing, and kerning and tracking. Thanks.
All right, so I just wanted to point that out only because we're going to be having an assignment that is going to require you to adjust tracking and letting in maybe some kerning on your assessment. I believe it's the assessment 1. So I just wanted to kind of preface that. We're going to be looking at logos and letter marks, getting into the design portion of our class here pretty soon. Logos and letter marks. There are a lot of logos and letter marks that you might already be familiar with. Let me show you real quick. There's logos, which are this, you've got symbols sometimes coupled with a letter mark, or a logo coupled with the name of the company, which is the word mark. Letter marks, though, are what we're going to be using for our assignment, and I think they're much harder to design. So I think letter marks are hard because you just are stuck with the letters, maybe some kind of a graphic that is conveying the message or the personality. But for the most part, you're relying very heavily on the font and your font choice. And so you really want to make sure that you come up with something that's unique and different. H&M, that's a very familiar brand. This is their letter mark, and I haven't seen much font like it. So either the designer used a certain kind of font, or perhaps they tailored it a little bit. Yeah, they're much harder than symbols, because symbols kind of basically tell you what the company is. You're relying solely on the letters alone. Now, I will say this, because it's a logo design class, I'm okay if there is some kind of, I don't know, element that's going on there besides just the letters. So what I'd like you to do is just kind of recognize the letter mark, and then we're going to try to stick as close to that as possible. We really want the font to echo the image of the company. We really want things to be self-contained. No, we're going to talk about I'll do a true or false with you guys real quick. True or false, you can use a background on your logo. What would you guys say? Okay, you can use it in like Ferrari. You can use that kind of a background. That's okay. But for the most part, we really don't have background colors on our logos unless you want your logo to have that background always and forever. So if that's done on purpose, then that might be fine, but it has to be contained and it has to make sense with your logo. Okay, good job. True or false, you can use stock photography or any pictures with your logo designs. False. We never ever use pixelated art with our logo designs. Why is that? Can anyone tell me why we can't use photography or pictures or anything with pixels in our logo designs? Okay, some are copyrighted, right? Right, it can't be resized. You'll get into raster versus vector in other classes, but just remember that you can't, there's a limit to photography and how big it can be blown up. So while it may look really cute and nice on a business card, if I wanted to use that same picture on a billboard, it's going to look so blurry and fuzzy, because if you're blowing it up to a huge size, it won't keep its true clarity and property. So all the properties get stretched and distorted. Vectors, and that is what we're designing, typography, any kind of art that you create in Illustrator, those vectors don't have pixels. They're not pictures. They are actual mathematic equations that create mathematical art, basically, that you can resize. You can go as big as you want and as small as you want, and you won't lose the quality or the visibility of the image. So yeah, but it's become squares. So you are never to use photography or images like that in your logo designs. Now, we're not going to be using any of that because we're doing letter marks, but just moving forward, I've had some students include a really cool picture with their logo, but while that looks cool, it's not a logo design. And it can't be, because a logo has to be resized and has to be used among all different kinds of forms of media. All right, let's go back here. I had a video I wanted to show you guys. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. We're only going to do up to the first couple minutes because I want to spend most of the time going over the design portion with you guys. We'll do one more.
Here we're going to talk about letter forms and logos and the things that you can consider when you're working with letter forms to create an expressive letter mark or type logo. Now, what you see here is a partial screen of the result of a Google search I did for logos. And this page came up filled with logos, many of which I'm sure you recognize. Now, in this course, we're going to work exclusively with types, so the imagery here is not something we're going to consider. But there are a couple of logos here that I feel use type to a very expressive extent, and they're highlighted here. The Oreo logo is one that I think works very well because the fat white letter forms really give us a feeling of the cream that's inside the chocolate cookie. If the letter forms here had been thin or delicate or even colored, it wouldn't work nearly as well. I know you all agree that we get a sense of the rich, opulent cream that's inside the cookies here, and the letter forms help to recognize that. Notice too that the letter forms, while being very fat and sumptuous looking, are still slightly separated so that you can easily read the word. And this is always something to consider when you're working with letter forms. If you can't read it, it's not going to be successful. So over here, we have a logo you may be familiar with, the Guitar Hero video game logo. This is very well done because, again, you can easily read the phrase, even though the letters have been distorted and manipulated such that they fit closely together, like a tight band would, so to speak. And the G and the R, you'll notice, have been stylized, and the points have been manipulated on some of the other letters. The whole effect is one of kind of a Gothic Old English feel, such as many metal bands use in their music. So we get a sense of that hard rock feeling from this really well done logo, all done with letter forms. Over here, we see a very simple one, the Hershey's logo. Now, of course, the dark brown rectangle behind the letter forms signifies the delicious chocolate bar that's inside the package. You'll notice too that the letter forms are not treated that extensively. It's a very simple treatment, but the letters are all caps. They're in a bold sans serif typeface, very tightly spaced, very tidy, again, very easy to read. But the way that this works I think, is the fact that the letters are all capitals. That implies confidence, boldness, and it also makes for a nice rectangular shape to the words, which fits nicely on a package. So an all caps treatment can communicate that power, that boldness and confidence. It can also be really easy to work with in layout because it comes out in a nice rectangular aspect. The last logo we're going to look at here is the eBay logo, and it's a good example of what we call mixed case. You'll notice that the Y used in the logo is a capital letter, but the other three letters are lowercase. And you'll notice too that they overlap, but yet you can still easily read the logo. It's multicolored, which to me signifies diversity and abundance. And it's a friendly, not too formal looking logo that has been very successful in communicating the nature of the company. So these are some of the ideas that you can get from working with type and type logos. Now, for one of your assignments is to work with a toy store logo, Jumping Spider Toys. And here I have worked a little bit with the letter forms to express the nature of some of the things you can do to make this successful for you. And I'm going to make this a little smaller so we can see the screen. JST, the three letters of the company, are treated in a couple of different ways. And you'll notice that down here I have a listing of things you can do design-wise to work with your type. You can work with scale or size. You can change them. You can use mixed typefaces, such as I have done in this logo here, and mixing up the type to work. You can use mixed case, as I talked about a moment ago. Here the T is lowercase, and yet the capital S and J work with the lowercase t here. And you'll notice that in some cases the letters touch, signifying unity. You can work with different type styles. You can mix bold and italic. You can work certainly with color. And for a toy store, I'm sticking with bright primary colors, which are appealing to children. The way that you place and relate the letters to one another is really important. Here I've taken the background purple rectangle and I have angled it a little bit to imply playfulness, or like a block. It's always important to remember to maintain your readability. And a lot of times this background shape will help to unify the logo. If I was going to go and color this logo up top here, for instance, I could color in that circle. And I would want to for a toy store because you want to have something that is bright and cheerful and appealing. Now, it's also important to remember, though, when you design a letter mark or a logo, you want to also have a black and white version that works as well. In this case, the JST, the red background here, I have a black and white version that could be used if I had to depict it without any color. And remember, too, that black and white means black and white, no grayscale. So that's important to keep in mind. So these are some ideas of how you can manipulate type and use it to create expressive and very successful letter mark logos.
All right, so we're going to stop there. Get my headphones plugged in, and then so far. So we're going to get into the design portion of our lecture. Yay, this is the best part. This is the most fun part. So if everyone can launch their Illustrator for me, get Illustrator up, because that's what we're going to be working in to design our logos. Now, InDesign is often used for any multi-page documents like books or magazines, flyers, anything that would require more than one page, just because of the way it's set up. I guess the interface is just really user-friendly in that case. Illustrator, on the other hand, is used to create vectors, logo designs. And it has been used to create other documents, but you can use it for business cards, anything that's kind of a single page, any ad designs, and things like that. But with logo design, you definitely want to be an illustrator. And you'll find that some of the tools will cross over, and you'll get, once you're familiar with one program, some of you may be stronger in one than the other, we'll probably be going back and forth a little bit, but for the most part, we're going to be in Illustrator. Now, I promised you guys a little surprise, or I guess a surprise for coming. And so we're going to be going over some of the quiz questions that are going to be up and coming this week. And I want to show you that before we jump into our assignment, before I forget. I don't want to leave you guys hanging. Have you all done Tuesday's quiz today? Yes? Okay, well, we'll start with Wednesday then. Or no? Okay, let's do Tuesday. We'll look at Tuesday. Oh, whoops. Okay, so there's a video to watch. We won't watch it, but if you're missing the required fonts, what are you asked to do? If you're going to be asked to download certain fonts, what are you supposed to do if you're missing the required fonts? Be given them for free by your instructor, not to be responsible for obtaining them, be responsible for obtaining them and installing them, be able to continue class without them. See? Let's try that one. Yay, good job. C is the right answer. You are given fonts to install. They're in a little zip folder link that's under the assignment. So once you have that downloaded on your computer, you should be able to be just fine. All right, let's do the next one. This is a financial aid question. What is the amount of the match if you're in a bachelor's degree program? Okay, and it looks like 10,000. Yeah, 10,000 is the one. We'll say 10,000. We have some fast readers in here. I'm so slow. I'm still trying to process the question. Okay, let's do Fridays. Let's check this out. Another financial aid question. If you already have graduated from your program, are you still eligible for matching funds? True or false? I would say true. Let's see. Great. Good job. And let's go one more. Now, because there isn't any extra credit in this class, but if you get more than 4 right or do more than 4 in a week, the other 2, or I'm sorry, if you do, yeah, the other 3 I think are extra credit. The ones on the weekend are extra credit. If you can do more than 4 in the week, the extras are just extra points. So that's something to look forward to. Okay, there's a link here, an article. Design skills are an important part of becoming a typographer. True or false? True. Got trues across the board. All right, we'll stop there. You guys can do Tuesday and Sunday, but for the most part, this should help you get through the quizzes. Let's check out the announcements, or I'm sorry, the assignments real quick. This is very important because I want to point out that grading rubrics, where you can find them. Grading rubrics are right here at the bottom of your assignments. They're posted during that week. So before you submit your assignment, please make sure you read through these very carefully. This is so that there's no surprises. So you know how many points you'll get docked and what you'll be graded on exactly. And I'll be giving some critiques under the comment section. So once if you don't get full points, it'll explain why. And like with any assignment, if you come into the multi-session on Thursday is not a structured lesson. It's just kind of open lab, open hours for my office time. So you come in and you can work with me or ask me questions. I won't go over the full lecture with you, but I can definitely help you with the assignment if you want to ask questions. But also, if you do get docked points and you want to make up those points, come to the multi-session and we can work on getting those points back up for you. Also, I want to put a plug in. If you come to the multi-session and you're ready to submit your work, you can submit it and receive a grade on the spot if I look over it beforehand. So it's kind of, a lot of students like that situation and it works well. They get their grade quickly and they also get some feedback before they submit it. So it's a win-win for us all. Okay, creating letter marks. So we learned that a letter mark are kind of the initials of the company. A letter mark, not to be confused with word mark. Word mark is when the company is completely spelled out. letter marker, the initials, the abbreviation for the company. Now, this is an exercise that's going to kind of help you create visual communication because you're very limited. You will have colors that you can use, but again, you have to do a black and white and color version, and you're going to be, I guess, limited to the fact that you're not going to be able to create so many. You can't create icons or anything like that. I won't totally say no to it, but I do want you to stick to a true letter mark if you can. Some of these are going to be very hard. I mean, they're hard to convey. You're just going to have to put your thinking cap on and try to come up with some options. So you'll create 2 different typographic compositions for each company, and a composition for each composition you need to explore no more than 2 typefaces per solution. So we're putting a cap on how many type families you can use. So choose typefaces, kind of talking about what we talked about earlier, taking into consideration what kind of company is it? Are you going to be playful or serious? And so you'll have a broad spectrum of what you can cover. Just be smart about it. Now, be sure to only use the typefaces from the acquired list, and it's on week 1's course media page. Here's a link right here if you missed it. Download them from the links, and you can come up with your solutions like that. We talked about scale, width, size, angle, use of positive and negative space. These are all things that can help you customize these very classic fonts that you'll be using. And each mark should utilize black and white only. So make sure that you have a color and a black and white version. Oh wait, let's see. Are we only allowed to use black and white? Looks like it. Each mark should utilize black and white only. So it looks like no color. Yeah, 2 black and white designs for each one. That would get hard. I won't dock you points if you use color. Yeah, challenges. I won't totally say no to it. I didn't read that part earlier. That's going to get even more challenging, but try your best. See what you can come up with. Here's a list of the fonts if you need a list. Okay, so without further ado, let's take our 10-minute break. When we come back, have your Illustrator up and ready to go, and we're going to start doing the design portion. The way I like to structure my lesson or my lectures is I like to give you a little exercise, I'll do a demo, then I'll turn it over to you, you work on it. You can share your screen. Might call on you. If you don't feel comfortable with that, that's fine. I usually ask for volunteers. But it's kind of neat letting us work with one another, and kind of makes it a little bit more personal. Yes, Brianne, you have a question. Brianne says check the fonts, and a couple in your Illustrator did not have a regular. Is that normal? Can you be more specific, Brianne? Certain font families may not have a regular. Udoni? Okay, some may not. If you've downloaded these fonts, go ahead and download them. If you've pulled down the font zip file and have installed them on your computer and you don't see a regular version, then it's not there. Yeah, some may not have a regular. Yeah, it's kind of confusing. You just automatically expect them to have that, but some don't. So yeah, don't worry about that. Yeah. Good question. Great question. Any other questions? No questions? All right, well, we'll go ahead and take our break. I will stop the screen share here. When we come back, like I said, just have Illustrator up and ready to go, and we will jump right into the fun part of class. We'll see you guys in 10 minutes. All right, so let's begin. Jump into the design portion. Does everyone have Illustrator up? We ready to get in? Okay, perfect. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this logo design. So our first approach is we want to stay simple, right? We also want to convey a message just using our abbreviations. So it can be JST is the abbreviations for this. So we want to start out by grabbing our type tool. Now here, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the toolbar. Have you guys had any, do you need me to review any tools? Are we pretty familiar with the tool, the selection tool? Okay, just a quick recap. Your type tool here is found on your toolbar right here. It's the letter T, or you can access it by clicking T on your keyboard. And you click and drag, and a box will appear. There will be a blinking cursor, and depending on what your font size is, and it can be seen up here at the top. Let me share the entire screen. Hold on. Let me share everything so you can see my messy desktop. There we go. Make this nice and big. All right. So we want to be able to convey a message. If I were to type out a word, let's see, what about the word sad? How would you convey that? Type out that word sad. What sort of things would you do to make that word have a feeling or a personality? First, it would probably start out with the type of font that you were using. I don't know if we would do all caps necessarily. I guess you could if you wanted to. Sad to me kind of sounds like kind of dull and droopy, more not as bright and happy as you would think. So maybe we could make our letters look a little bit off their game. Okay, so Brianna's saying she would use color. She would use black or gray to convey the message, and then would also use lowercase. Excellent. That's kind of where I was going. For the word sad, I'd probably keep it lowercase. You could use gray. If we had to stick with black and white, though, it does challenge us a little bit. So one thing that I like to do is once you've typed your word, you select your text box and go to Type, Create Outlines. What that does, and then you'll right click and ungroup it, and it will allow you to move around your letters. So now they're kind of their own individual vector, and this will allow you to kind of manipulate it. I'm going to kind of make these little droopier, kind of coming into each other. You know, you can manipulate it that way. Or you can keep them all straight. But the neat thing that I like to do is create outlines. Now the pro and cons of this, the pros are you can manipulate them, change colors, change size. It allows you to do a lot of other things, break them apart individually if you do create outlines. But it doesn't allow you to edit the word anymore. No longer is it, you can grab your cursor and edit. So always make a copy of something that you've typed just in case. But this does allow you to do some neat things to it. Okay, so what's another word? What would you do with happy? How would you describe happy? For me, I'd probably do all uppercase. That just, it seems more like upbeat to me. Floating letters, yeah, that's even a good idea. So maybe floating letters. Let's try that. So maybe I could even kind of shift these words up and down. Happy, just kind of give a little more playful look to it. That looks happy to me. Yeah, great suggestion, Brianne. Okay, so you kind of get the gist here. Now, what about jump? The word jump is in our logo. So what would we do for jump? How would we convey this word? Yeah, you'd want to make it big. How would we make the letters jump? Yeah, you could make them jump up and down. So kind of what we did with happy. You can kind of move them up and down. That's an option. Another thing that you can do is you could shift one of them up. And I've seen this done before. Let me try to get it visual. Here we go. Kind of use this line to show you like something's jumping off the page, right? So you kind of need to think of the emotion that you want to convey. Yeah, you could do maybe all lowercase except one letter. Oh, that's a good idea. Do all lowercase. So this is kind of what we're going to want to try to figure out, jumping spider toys. So we saw some examples on the video where she just drew the JST, and then she had a really colorful box in the background. She kind of had these letters floating around. There's lots of different ideas that you could do, and I'm not going to go through all of them because I want you to be a little bit creative. But for me, when I first saw this, I thought, oh, that'd be kind of cool if the S was jumping off the page. And I could even draw like a little line underneath it, kind of what I did earlier. Like that. And then kind of just make sure it begins and ends. It's the same width of the S. Just like that. So that could be an idea. Maybe you could angle the letters, or maybe do lowercase seems to be pretty playful. So JST, I could even change the font to, I'm just going to pick a pretty classic one. So, and I'll go to type, create outlines. I'll make this nice and big. And I could, like we saw, we could angle the letters. If you hover over the corner with a letter selected, hover over the corner, your arrow kind of changes to a curved arrow. That means it's all set for you to kind of adjust the angle of it. And by doing this, this is allowing me to kind of get a playful look. And I'm going to move them a little bit closer. I'm going to move this T down. My thought process is to probably kind of line it up with that J at the bottom there. I'll move my J in. So kind of giving this nice rotation on the letters that can kind of help it be playful. So that to me looks like it would be, and she even put a box behind it, which I thought was a pretty good idea. We can't use colors, but in this case, I can do black on white and maybe angle the box a little bit. So I'll send this to the back by right-clicking, go to Arrange, Send to Back. I'll highlight the letters, bring them to the front, right-click, Arrange, Bring to the front. And there you go. So we can even make the box a little bigger. Kind of like it's jumping off. You could do a series of a couple boxes. So 1, 2, 3. You know, you could do something like that. Or one of the boxes is jumping out. I saw a suggestion you could do a spider web. You can do that. You'd have to do it very tastefully. Make sure that you're not venturing too much into the combination mark look. But if you could figure out a way to add a spider web and do it simply, that would be a good idea. You could even maybe make a spider out of this little dot here. What do you say? Hang on. Let's grab an L. actually, I'm going to go to my glyphs. If I go to type, select glyphs, this is all the characters that are within this font family. Now you'll notice some are different for Arial, some are going to be different for Times New Roman. Times New Roman has a ton of them because it's been around for forever. People keep adding to it. But you could get a really cool character to make the legs. So I'll grab this, go to type, create outlines, and I'll just rotate it. If you hold down shift as you rotate it, it will lock it into a 90-degree place. And I kind of want, see if this will work. You know, you could do something like that. You kind of make a little spider legs. There's an easier way to do it, so I'm just going to do the line tool. And I'm going to select these, give it a stroke of about 1 point. I'm going to zoom in really closely when I feel like I'm going into surgery. I need to like zoom in to make sure I'm lining everything up just right. Even closer. Want everything to be positioned just right. So then I'll hold down, I'll do Command G and group them. And then I can kind of, now I can use these, kind of copy and paste them over. I'm going to just rotate them. That's a simple little spider. It's not meant to be a, you know, a total combination mark, but you know what? Even the logo without it is still very fun and playful. So yeah, I think spider is, I don't know, don't Google jumping spider. I'm telling you what, those images are just horrifying. So I'm warning you, I'm putting it out there. But yeah, so there's a few things that you can do to convey jumping or maybe spider or toys. It's a playful logo. And then just remember to put the font that you used under here. This one would have been Times New Roman. Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely afraid of them. I Googled jumping spider toys or toy logos. And when I entered anything with spider, it just brought up all these images of spiders. It grossed me out. I can't stand them above everything. Okay, so let's look at this. Let's do Paramount technology. Here's a few ideas I used. I didn't know you couldn't use color, so we do need to stick with black and white. Unfortunately, it's going to even limit us more. I want to show you real quick some things that you can do to your font to customize it, to create something different. So we'll take Arial, for example, and I'll come down here and I'll draw a big P. Let's do Arial font. Whoops. Highlight this, and I'm going to go to Arial. Okay. I'll go to Type, Create Outlines. I'm going to make it nice and big. And I'll zoom in here so that you can see what I'm doing. So with any font, you really do want to be able to customize it as much as possible. The P here, once I have created outlines, if I go to my my selection tool, my direct selection tool, the white arrow, you'll notice there's these little circles on my letters. If I click and bring them down, it will adjust the roundness of my letter. So now that Arial P looks totally different now that I've rounded out the letter a little bit. You don't have to be that extreme. You can just kind of stop where you feel is necessary, but you can, you know, go so far as to really change the look of the letter entirely. All right, so that's one way you can change the font family. Another way is if we had, let's do an L. And I want to do Times New Roman. So I'll go to a font that has serifs. And again, I'll go to Type, Create Outlines. And I'll make this nice and big. So if I wanted to change anything on it, I'll go to my direct selection tool. And again, it will let me round out my letters, round out the corners. So it will give me a rounded look. That's kind of neat. Or it won't give me such a sharp edge. Or something that I can do is I can play around with these little anchor points. That will kind of allow me to change the shape a little bit. You can do some pretty neat things with it. You can also use your pen tool and you can take away serifs. Like that. You can change the shape of your serifs by minimizing the anchor points. And it's kind of giving me a whole different look. So now my L looks a little different, and then I can still round it out. So it'll let me do it again. So that's one way. I'll back up so you can see. So there's a few different ways to manipulate it. Another thing that you can do is, I don't know if you've ever worked with the Pathfinder box, but it's actually really neat. If you lay something over another item, and I'm going to change the color so you can see what it's doing. So orange on black. And if you select them both by holding down Shift and selecting each item, this mode will merge them. So the item is now merged. It's now one vector. You can also divide them under the Pathfinder tool here. And dividing them, once you've done that, you'll ungroup it, right-click, ungroup, and you can now delete these items. And so it kind of gives you a whole, it can break it up in pieces. It's kind of neat what you can do with the divide tool. You can merge, trace, lots of different fun things there. So I want you to get creative if you can. You're not just limited to, since we're stuck with just doing black and white, we want to make sure we can get as creative as possible. You might want to think of ways you could incorporate, how do you convey something that's Italian? I thought of a mustache. That's Italian, and that's a common character that you'll find in your glyphs or even on your keyboard. You could make a little chef's hat and kind of incorporate it into your logo. Not quite sure how, but that's another idea. Or you can do a serving tray. I did a little martini glass as kind of my homage to the Italian restaurant. I wanted something that conveyed that I was Italian, and looks like it's a little tipsy because it's totally upside down, but this is just an idea to get you started. So are there any questions? All right, so you could get started here. I want to show you how I did this one. I did this BL for Bank of Lantander. For the B, and you can use really any font that you think is appropriate. I'm just doing an Arial font for now since it's just kind of the most common one. I'll do, I'll select the type box and I will create outlines. Make it nice and big. And I can choose to grab a little rectangular box and draw straight down the middle. The idea with this is that I'm trying to create, I'm going to select them all and click on divide. I'm trying to create the illusion that it's a lock, like lock and key, so that it's safe. So I'm just kind of deleting the items here in the middle. I can do that, or I can keep the one in the middle. So that's how I did that look. So it almost looks like a lock is open. If I wanted to kind of close it out, make it look like a lockbox. So that's just kind of think about how you can create something that conveys the message. I was trying to think security, so I was thinking lock, key. I even designed kind of a key, but I don't know if that necessarily totally works with the kind of the letter mark theme. So we kind of just want to stick to the letters as best we can. All right, so what I'm going to have you guys do is shift gears, go to your Illustrator, and I want you to kind of get used to creating outlines with your text. I want you to create outlines, and I want you to find your glyphs, as there are a lot of characters here that you could use. I mean, they've got the sun, they have music notes. I mean, they actually have characters that are already designed for you here, which is kind of neat. So I want you to find and locate your glyphs panel, and I want you to practice outlining text. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to design anything just yet, but I want you to practice outlining your text. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'll give you 2 minutes to kind of get something typed out and your glyphs box open. If someone already has, feels good about it, let me know, and I'll have you share your screen and kind of demonstrate it, how you did it. Okay, are we feeling confident with creating outlines? Would anyone like to share their screen and kind of demonstrate how they found it? Haven't got that far, so just need a few more minutes. Okay, I'll give a few more minutes. All right. Anybody, has anybody been able to find their glyphs panel? Got a few of you working away, so I'll let you do that. Not get the outline. Okay, so I'm going to stop my share, and Norma, I'm going to have you share your screen. So will you click on share screen for me? It's kind of got mountains. It's that little icon. You click on share screen. It's that dual window. See if that'll let you pull up your screen. There you go. And then select Illustrator or the program you're working in. So this is a common, usually a common problem that students run into is not being able to get the outline. So I'm glad that you brought this up. So if you'll click on Illustrator, Norma, this will allow me to Are you able to click on Illustrator? Try it one more time, Norma. You were so close. There you go. Now select Illustrator. There you go. Excellent. Okay, so grab your black arrow, the selection tool. Whoops. Like we're having some issues with Zoom. Are you able to, is your computer shutting down? Oh dear. Okay, it looks like she's not able to share. So we'll move on here. Does anyone else want to share their screen? I'll show you, Norma, kind of quickly what might be happening. When you type out your text, yeah, when you, I'll get to you, Brianne. I'll have you share your screen just a minute. When you type out your text, you need to select your text box with the selection tool, the black arrow. Okay, and you'll see the frame around your text box. That means that it's selected. With this selected, you'll go to Type, Create Outlines, okay? Sometimes when we create something, we highlight the text and we're like, why doesn't it let us? It won't let you when you highlight the text. You need to actually go to the selection tool, have the box selected, then go to Type, Create Outlines. And then you'll know you've done it right when each individual letter has its own set of anchor points. That's when you'll right click and go to ungroup. Then it will let you, break them apart a little bit. Okay. All right, Brianne, go ahead. Let me close out my screen. Go ahead and share your screen if you'd like. Wonderful. Okay, so were you able to bring, okay, I see your glyphs are up, and then you were able to break apart your type by using the create outlines, correct? Are they, can you select each letter? It looks like you've done it correctly. Yeah, excellent. Oh, great. Good. Great job. Excellent. So yeah, just play around with that and see if you know what you can come up with, something that's playful and fun, but you've done it correctly. So good job on that. Does anyone else have questions? Are you stuck? Do you not know how to find the glyphs or how to create outlines on our fonts? Here's another thing that you can do is if you have two letters, I'll change the color so you guys can actually see what it's doing. Pick a happier color then. Let's do blue. You can select both letters, and again, we can kind of just play with the Pathfinder tool a little bit. So by breaking this piece up, this allowed me to kind of create a cool little effect. So there's different things that you can do by using your Pathfinder tool. If you don't know where to find your Pathfinder tool, go to Window, click on Pathfinder right here, and it will pull up this little dialog box. If you hover over each tool, it will tell you what it's called. Oops. This is Unite or Merge. This one's Divide. So just kind of click on each one and kind of see what it does when you overlap an object. So the idea is to overlap objects and see what kind of effect you can get out of it. So that's kind of a cool way to play with your font, make it look different. All right, so I'm gonna get rid of these. So we're gonna go ahead and shift gears and go to our assessment, which is kerning and tracking and learning how to adjust. You will need to create something. Let me go back to our home page real quick and get the dimensions. I believe it's 8.5 by 11 horizontal. So you're gonna lay something out. So real quick, this is how you'll set up your document. If you go to File, New, and you, I believe it's in Illustrator is where we have, or InDesign is where we need to set it up, but the specifications are still the same. Let's go to InDesign. Let me close out of here. Whoops. We'll just do our desktop. I'm going to load InDesign real quick. And while it's loading, I'm going to go to our class and find our assessment specification so I can make sure I tell you guys correctly. So hopefully this logo assignment is going to be fun for you guys. I love logo design. It just really gets you thinking in a different way. So we're now going to basic typesetting exercises. So I'll show you how to set up the document. You're going to export all the pages as a basic multi-page PDF. So we're going to be working in InDesign, if it will ever launch for me. You'll need to create 5 pages. It's going to be solely in black and white, and you're just going to be demonstrating that you can follow instructions. It'll give you some text and tell you the specs. So I'll do the first one with you, and you'll kind of follow suit for the rest of them, for the rest of the 4 pages. InDesign does not want to work today. See if I can quit out of some programs here. Yeah, okay, Brianne, great question. So I have a template that I can send you. There's no specific way to really, nothing to set up, just you need to create 2 examples. So just kind of like I did, just have your font here at the bottom on each side, and then have your logos on each side, and then your company here. So what I'll do is I will email out a little template for you guys to start on, and you can use that template, or it's just a basic 8.5 by 11 sheet, and then each row will have its own logo. So do you guys want me to email the template, or do you prefer to set up your own? Probably be easier to email it out. Email be great. Okay, I'll send it tonight when we in class. Yeah, my InDesign doesn't seem to want to load. I've got so much. Zoom kind of slows down everything, so I'm not able to really load it as quickly as I'd like. I think we've almost there. If it doesn't load anytime soon, I'm going to just, there we go. InDesign. Okay, so I've got my InDesign app. We'll go to File, New Document, and it pulls up this new document dialog box. We're going to need 5 pages, so enter the number 5 right here. And we want to deselect facing pages. We don't want that box checked. That's only if we need something side by side, like a magazine layout or books or anything like that, but flyers, but we do not want that checked. I usually like to click on preview so I can see what it's doing. And then orientation, we need it to be horizontal. So it's just an 8.5 by 11. You'll just page size letter will be standard. That's all you need. And you might often see, well, this is in pixels, not inches. So it depends on your settings and how your default settings are set up. There is a way to change it. I'm not quite sure how. I'd have to go in and troubleshoot. But what you can do is if you ever needed to manually enter a width and a height, you would just do 8.5, or the width needs to be 11 inches by 8.5 inches. But if it's a basic standard page size, just click letter and you'll be fine. Yeah, preferences. Yes, I've done it once, but I usually work in picas. That's just how I think. So that's why mine's set up this way. But if you need it, different increments of measurement, you can go into preferences and change it. Preferences, just click on the Apple, File, preferences should be in there. Number of columns, I don't think you need columns. Just leave everything pretty much standard. Gutter is 1, margins 3 picas. Just leave that. And you'll see that this purple margin bar shows up on my screen. This is a great guide to where I want to keep my text box in. So for example, is there a bleed? No bleed on this assignment. No bleed. A bleed's usually for the artwork, but since we're just doing type exercises, this is just demonstrating to me that you know how to use your, how to format your text. So the first one, oh wait, I'm sorry, I told you wrong. There are margin specifications that we do need to follow. So let's do that so we can make sure we're doing it correctly. So if we go to File, New, this will be good practice for you guys. 5 pages, deselect, and then let me read those. Let me pull up those. It is so hard to do this with Zoom up. I apologize. I'm not able to minimize my screen. Let's see if it'll let me. InDesign does not appear to be working right now. Do you guys want to read off the, does anyone have the the homepage up? Read off the margins to me. I can't seem to close out with the Zoom up. How is it doing that? Thanks. Okay, top is 1.5. 1.5 inches. Don't forget to type in inches. You'll want to break this chain here so that you can type them in. 1.5 inches. The right and left is 1 inch. You want this horizontal. 5. Deselect facing pages. Okay, type is 1 inch, or right and left. Bottom is 2.5. And let's see if that's right. All right, so there we go. So this is our margin line, and this is where we'll be keeping our text box in. So now that we've got our page set up, now it will let me. I'm gonna go grab page, it kind of has it set up. So page 1, the text is truth. So we're gonna copy, grab our type tool, click and drag. You want to set your text box, kind of use the purple margin line as your guide. You paste that word in there, highlight it, and you'll need to make it extra big. So you go up here to change your font size. You can also go to window. Window is kind of your toolbox if you don't have, if you're not able to find what you're looking for in your toolbar, there's extra tools here in your window drop-down menu. So if you click on, sorry, I can't talk tonight. If you click on type and tables and go to character, this dialog box will help you adjust anything in your character formatting controls. So truth, I'm going to make it nice and big. I'm going to adjust the font size. It will tell you what size to make it. It says 225 points. So I'm going to make it 225 points. You can manually enter it in, 225 right here. Hit enter. And then it says 225 point leading. And the leading is right here. You can just hover over the icons and it will tell you 225. Okay, leading, you won't see anything happen because leading is the space between lines of text, and we only have one line of text, so you're not going to see a difference. If you were to hit a hard return and type in truth again, then you would see what it's doing, but in this case, it's not going to change visually for you. And then you want to make sure Times New Roman regular, flush left. So we'll highlight it, make sure it's Times New Roman. You can either manually enter it in, Times New Roman regular, and then I'm going to go up here to my paragraph formatting controls and click Align Left. You can also access that by going to Window, Type and Tables, Paragraph, right here, and selecting Align Left. There's also Center, Right Align. So that's where you do that. And then look at the space between the letters. Does it look even? Use the kerning tool to make any needed adjustments. So there seems to be a really tight kerning between all the letters except the R and the T. There seems to be a big gap there. So I'm going to put my cursor here and I'm going to adjust the kerning, which is this one right here, kind of the VA icon. I'm going to go down until what I'm looking at is the spacing between the two letters, making sure they're even. I don't need to go too much. Wow, too much. There we go. And then even with the U, I could put my cursor here and kind of bring it in a little bit. You can adjust letter spacing however you want, but this is how we do it. So it just depends on if you want to measure it between the serifs here at the bottom of the baseline, or if you want to measure it between the space of the letters up top. So I'll leave that to your discretion, but I just want to be able to see, you know how to use the kerning, the leading tool, and you know how to adjust tracking. So that's the first one. And then page 1, let's see, will be, sorry, page 2, you'll move on to page 2, and then it will give you instructions on what you need to do. All right. Are there any questions before we end class? So fun, good. I'm really glad. I really hope you guys have a lot of fun. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. If you need any one-on-one time before the multi-session on Thursday, just simply go to the Student Success Center, or you can contact our learning coach. She's excellent, Wanda Bryant. I don't know if you've worked with her before, but let me show you how to access that information. She's here to help. So if you need any help at all, Student Success Center is right here. There's a big green icon. You'll click that and it will take you to where you need to go. Lots of tutors there. And then we also have the announcements. If you click on the announcements, there is, I believe I posted it. I've got a million of them in here. Let's see. She's in here somewhere. I'll do a search. There you go. You're in luck. Learning coach schedule. So there's an attachment here. If you click that, it's got her contact information, when she's available during the week 1, and different times. So and then again, I wanted to put in the plug. They'll be sending out a multi-session calendar, so to speak, where if you can't make my multi-session, if the day and the time conflicts with your scheduling, or if you're on the East Coast and it's really late there, you can choose to go to any multi-session held by any instructor. It's not just for this class. So you're welcome to go in and do that. But if you want to talk to me, happy to help as well. So, and I'll email out that template, that assignment template, so you can get that get that started. And then any questions, bring to me at the multi-session. If you've already got a head start on the assignment, you can come prepared to pass it off. That is cool too. And thanks, guys. You've been great. Thank you for hanging in there. Wanda is great. I think she's wonderful. She's been a great asset to this class. Yeah, 11:30 is late, so I won't keep you up a minute longer. Thank you, guys. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.